Welcome to Season 4 of the Self-Care 101 podcast, hosted by life and business coach for rebels and changemakers, Puja McClymont. This season is all about deepening the relationship we have with the self, because in order to truly succeed at life, we must know ourselves first. Thank you so much for listening today. Hello, it's Season 4, Episode 11. Do you ever go on social media and get bored? Seeing the same old from influencers, brands and celebrities? Do you endlessly scroll Reels and TikToks, come out of the apps and find yourself back in again within minutes? That's the dopamine effect. But what if what you're consuming on social media is actually making you feel worse about yourself and your problems, your mental health and well-being? What if the people you so diligently follow have absolutely no interest in truly helping you, only to gain your follows, likes and shares to make them more famous? What would you think if I told you that many of the get-rich-quick schemes are actually psychologically manipulating you into buying? In today's episode, I'm having a frank conversation with Alex Partridge, who is one of the pioneers of social media content the way we know it today. At age 21 in 2010, while a student at Oxford Brookes University, he founded Unilad, one of the most popular social news and entertainment internet companies in the world, with an astonishing following of 50 million people around the globe. In 2012, Alex founded Lad Bible, which would also grow to become a social media juggernaut. Now fully detached from both brands, Alex is a mental health advocate. He has been praised for his raw vulnerability, unashamedly opening up to audiences about how litigation turned him into an alcoholic. I connected with Alex on LinkedIn after seeing a number of posts relating to today's topic, and I just had to invite him on for a deeper chat. While the episode shares our opinions, there's some food for thought that I hope will enable you to decipher which accounts and behaviours are to your benefit when you're scrolling on social media. And my lovely listener, if you enjoy the Self-Care 101 podcast, please can you leave a review on Apple or Spotify? It really helps the show get discovered by other people and lets me know that it helps you too. Okay, let's do this. Hi, Alex.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for doing this show with me today. I'm really excited to get into it with you. But before we do, would you just tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and what exciting things you've done?
Gosh, yeah, my name's Alex Partridge. I guess if I do a talk, on the poster, they put founder of Unilad and Lad Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Founded Unilad in 2010 when I was at university at Oxford Brookes. And 2 years later, I founded Lad Bible.
Wow.
I can go into the details if you like, or just leave it as the headline. I don't know what.
I think you can give us a little bit of a story. I mean, what made you create Unilad in the first place?
Unilad was off the back of a breakup. I was dating a girl, and she was the editor of an online magazine at the university. Mm-hmm. And I was fascinated when I was watching her doing all the writing and the website creation. And to cut a very long romantic story short, we broke up, and I thought, desperate to win her back, what could I do to try and impress her and get her attention? So I thought that I would start something similar to what she was doing. I didn't want to step on her toes too much. I mean, her magazine was targeted at female students, so I thought if I do one targeted at male students, they won't annoy her. It was a university thing directed at guys, so Unilad name came to me quite quickly. I told her about it, and she thought it was a good idea. We didn't get back together, in case everyone's wondering about that one, but that's actually the initial motivation for it.
Oh wow! And then you created Lad Bible.
Yeah, Lad Bible was 2 years later. I mean, I had an advantage at that stage because I had Unilad, which was on a sizable following, and I think it's always important to acknowledge moments where you got lucky, and the creation of Lad Bible was definitely one of those. The algorithm at the time on Facebook was really pushing pages, and I put a load of content behind what you would call a like gate. So when you clicked on the Lad Bible, you landed on this light gate and you saw a snippet of the content, and then it would fade out and it would instruct you to like the page if you wanted to see more. And at the time, if you liked a page, it would show up on all of your friends' newsfeed saying John Smith and 7 of your friends likes the Lad Bible. So it kind of created this curiosity gap. And yeah, it absolutely blew up. It grew to about 1 million followers within a week. I mean, there wasn't anything really special about it. And it was just, again, it was admitting that moment of luck, I think. It was right place, right time, and really pushing pages, and I sort of capitalized on that.
And I guess the content was really fun and different, wasn't it? It was sort of like, I don't know if we can make the claim, but it was almost like the beginning of the meme world, I guess, in terms of how we know it now. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always say, even with Unilad, like, huge amounts of luck. I mean, this was the beginning really of social media back in 2010. Facebook was a thing, but you couldn't, it was all just kind of poking and personal profiles then. I think I was literally one of the first people to probably make a Facebook page amongst a handful of people, and the early adopters really got traction. And if the content was quite good as well, then they blew up relatively easily. So that was definitely the case with Unilad and Lad Bible. And I guess I just didn't stop, I suppose. And there was the content was all sorts. It was text-based, it was meme-based, like you said. I mean, I don't think you could, back then, pictures weren't really what was being promoted on Facebook. This is, again, way back. I mean, the social media landscape back in 2010, 2012 was unrecognizable to what it is now. So all the content really was text-based on the newsfeed.
Yeah, no, I'm old enough to remember it all. I mean, I think I got invited to Facebook in 2008. So that was like the first time I'd experienced Facebook. And I definitely did not know about pages until I think about 2009, 2010, when they started sort of coming through. And yours is probably one of the first pages that we saw, purely because of the reach, because I just remember it. And I remember when we connected on LinkedIn, I was like, oh my God, yeah, like it's almost been like in my career, because I was in marketing before this. So I was always aware of what was going on social media. But, it's just very, I think it's really admirable that you were able to see something, but you're very smart to have done it, to be able to see something. And like you say, being an early adopter and create something so simple, but yet so powerful with such a magnitude of reach. That must have been quite something for you.
It was, yeah. I mean, I dropped out of university off the back of Unilad being so successful, I suppose, because I was studying hospitality, international hospitality management, doing a degree. I started Unilad in my second year, and within about 2 months, I had dropped out of university. It's kind of a cliche story now with founders and entrepreneurs. They go to university and they drop out after a short period of time, but it was justified, I think, because I wasn't enjoying my course. I was just kind of there because nothing else was happening in my life. So that's why I decided to go to university. And then Unilad really blew up, and quite a lot of it was generating decent money. Lots of brands were messaging the page asking to be featured on the page. And I remember just thinking, I love doing this and it's earning good money. I have no idea if this is going to, have traction and be sustainable in terms of a long-term thing. So it was quite a big risk to ditch what a degree at the time is,
Well, in theory, it was a completely new way of doing business, wasn't it? To literally monetize a page on a social media site. Obviously, it had never been done before because social media was still very, very new at the time. So you wouldn't necessarily be able to see the end goal. But I really love, obviously, as a coach, I love that the passion project side of it. I love the little story with the girlfriend too, obviously, but like the actual passion project and just following it through and being open to seeing where it goes, rather than trying to go, right, how am I going to make money from this? How am I going to make this scalable? How am I going to make this grow? And then it sort of, I guess it offshoots then more organically, and it can become more of what you enjoy doing, I guess, when you're in it, because the content is all fun. I think when it started out, it was very much fun driven. I can't remember it being too serious. Am I wrong in that? Or
no, not at all. I mean, it was all like comedy based.
Yeah.
And there was no intention of monetizing it. Like you said, I started it as a passion project. I mean, there were no case studies to say this is what you could do, this is what it could turn into. There was no precedent in the space. So Facebook pages were so new to everyone. People were still figuring out how to add people as a friend on Facebook back then, and how to change your relationship status, and all the basic stuff that you still do now to an extent. So there was no justification, and it was a difficult one, because I went to my parents and said I'm dropping out of university, and they were quite right. I think, as any parent would be back then, quite traditional, and didn't really get behind the idea to abandon a degree in pursuit of this a Facebook page. I didn't know what Facebook was. I mean, it really did. It was kind of the buzzword on campus, lots of campuses. Are you on Facebook? Have you all this kind of stuff. So to leave a traditional, route of getting a degree and being secure and stable in pursuit of something that was a complete unknown and massive risk. But it's kind of like, I don't want to say, well, it paid off, but it was a big risk at the time, and I was very aware of what I was getting, what I was sacrificing. But I wasn't enjoying my degree, so I didn't really look at it as a sacrifice. But it was convincing my parents to get on board with my. It was quite a challenge.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. My son recently came home and he said, "Mummy, when can I have a phone?" My son is 6, right? And he said, "Mummy, when can I have a phone?" And I said to him, "Well, what do you need a phone for?" "So I can just be on YouTube whenever I want." And I was like, "Well, if you ask me for my phone or whatever, I usually give it to you, but there's a time limit." He's like, "Yeah, I don't want a time limit." I'm like, "Oh, you're going to get a time limit." And then sometimes when he's got like my phone or my iPad, when I get it back, there are these videos in there where he has been a YouTube creator and he's sort of like, acting this out. And I said to him recently, I just, so what do you feel like being when you grow up today? Because it changes. He's obsessed with trains. It's usually a train driver, but sometimes I like to check in just in case he's been inspired by something else. And recently he said to me, I want to be on YouTube. And I was like, okay, doing what? Opening toys. Like, okay, fine. Okay. And I felt myself, like my parental judgment come through, like, no, son, you're not going to be a YouTube creator. You can do it on the side. You can do it as a passion project, but that is not like the main goal. And I really felt myself go, am I going to like stop him from growing? And I was like, no, I'm giving him the best of both. He can choose his path. He can still choose his path. And then on the flip side, I'll do it because we live near a university. And he's like, will I be going to this university? And I was like, oh, if you want, yeah, it's a top league university. And I was like, sure, like if that's something you want to do, of course, but you don't have to go. So I kind of balance it out like that and try not to be too judgmental on him. But it is very interesting. I love that you followed that and you let it be what it was going to be. And I know it was a bit tough because you had court cases and things with it all, but I'm glad that you've come out the other side of it and you're doing some incredible things now, aren't you, with all your speaking? And do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's all really new. I've done a fair bit of public speaking over the last 3 years, but after lockdown, I joined some speakers agencies and it's really, really picked up. And yeah, absolutely love doing it. Loads of virtual talks, loads of in-person talks.
And what kind of things are you talking about?
So my mental health is a big one. And sort of which goes hand in hand with that is my alcoholism. And that's something I've always, well, not always. It kind of came to the surface probably about 5-6 years ago. I've probably always been an alcoholic. I don't really know if it's just been waiting for some catalyst to bring it to the surface. But yeah, I've really enjoyed telling the story of entrepreneurialism and creating 2 big brands and discussing the legal challenges that came consequently down the road. And I guess how I coped with the stress of those legal challenges. And also, I guess, something I'm probably coming more to terms with now is the stress of like the expectation of me as an individual to be good, I suppose, at social media. Because social media, and I always say this, I'm saying a bit more in my LinkedIn content now, like social media is always changing so much. It's impossible to be an expert in social media. You have these two huge brands behind you. The expectation is when you come into a meeting or you come to the table on whatever project you're being brought in for. Oh, Alex has done Unilad and Lad Bible, and he worked at Hello You in London, and he grew them to 8 million followers, and he's done this and that. That was all 10 years ago. Like, I'm definitely. I mean, I don't think anyone can be a social media expert. That's my opinion. You can be an expert on something that literally changes every single day. There's so many platforms, and every single platform has an update. Quite literally every day, something new changes. So to be an expert, you would have to spend all of your time learning the updates. You wouldn't have any time to implement the knowledge or pass it on to anyone else.
No, exactly. It's funny because even when you mentioned earlier about Facebook and you said, people are still learning how to add friends and change their relationship status. I don't really use Facebook. And recently I was in there and an update had occurred and I was like, I don't even know how to change my, relationship status at this point. If it was to change, hopefully it doesn't, but if it was to change, I wouldn't know because it's so different. And there are things that I can be bothered with and some things that I can't. So it's more sort of like the platforms that I'm on, like LinkedIn or Instagram, although Instagram I'm trying to get away from now, and spend more time in LinkedIn. But it's changing constantly. And I know like with Instagram, there's Mosseri, isn't it? The guy who like sort of leads all the things, the innovation and stuff. And he is putting out a new update constantly. And it's interesting because I'll talk to like my friends who are in business and use Instagram for business. And they're like, oh God, it keeps changing. And now I've got to do this and I've got to create these things. And I'm there, a bit of a rebel, bit of a, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not playing the game. I will not point my fingers and no. Then this platform isn't for me anymore. That's kind of how I read it. And I see my like colleagues and friends just chugging away, trying to create. And I'm like, I really hope it's working for you because it doesn't look like it is. It looks like you're selling your soul a bit. And it's interesting that you mentioned social media experts because this actually weaves in quite nicely to the topic of conversation, which is what actually got me excited to talk to you because I don't know, recently, it was the last month or so, you've been posting things that are in my head that I would feel like I was just being a moany cow about if I said it out loud, like, oh, she's just jealous. She just hates these people because they're more successful than her. But actually, no, we connected on this particular topic because of how harmful these people's content can be. And it's all these people who claim that they're experts, but it's like, how do you qualify to be an expert on something like this, like social media, that is constantly changing? And you're not actually the creator of the social media, like in terms of you're not creating Instagram, you're not at the helm of Instagram saying this is how it's going to be done, or LinkedIn or whatever. But yet they're claiming themselves to be experts. And then they go off and they post content that basically almost forces you to buy, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I consider myself to have lots of experience in how algorithms work. I know people, I won't mention any names, but I'm friends with people who would be considered the most knowledgeable on social media. And they've behind closed doors said to me they have absolutely no idea how the algorithms work. I post stuff, they post stuff, and you think this has all the ingredients to get some traction behind it. This has all the ingredients to give it the best chance of some virality. It's got the story, it's got the emotion, it's got the call to action, it's got all the things that you're told they should have, and it falls flat. And sometimes you can post something that is absolutely doesn't have any of the ingredients, and the algorithm picks it up, and it goes super, super viral.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually the case for me when I've spent time on creating something that's really helpful, really valuable. Nothing, radio silence. And then I'll post a selfie with some sort of life lesson in there. And that, and it's when I say it's a nothing post, I mean, it's an easy post. I haven't really given it like masses of thought. It's just like, oh, that I could post that and I'll do it. And then that's, how many hundreds of thousands of views later. And it's like, oh, I don't get it. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about the algorithm. We're here to talk about, what should we call them? I don't even know what we should call them, but we're talking about being, I guess, being mindful of some of the content that we consume on social media, or some of the people that we follow who have an agenda to sell a lot. I mean, all of us businesses are there to sell, but I guess there's a way of doing good business and a way of doing not so good business. And I know that you've noticed a lot of it probably for a long time, but you've just recently been quite vocal about it, and you've had a lot of support. So it's not just a few of us who are seeing these people in this kind of content and realizing that it's really unhealthy, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's people who are manipulating people's emotions. It's the same way how you see that lottery ticket adverts on TV. They're manipulating people's emotions. They're selling the dream. They're selling the silver bullet. I've got this solution to do what should take a long time, super, super quick. You can't get rich quick. You can't build a LinkedIn audience overnight. You can't scale a multi-million-pound business in 6 months. There's a lot of people telling you can. There's a lot of people telling you it is possible if you buy their course for $779. And they'll stand in front of a Lamborghini, or they'll boast about how they've grown their LinkedIn following to 200,000 in a year. And more often than not, they've got lucky. Like, I posted something on LinkedIn a month ago and I grew by 25,000 followers off the back of one post. And like I said before, it was a post about hustle culture, and it was pretty well put together. But the fact that it blew up in the way it did, it got 74,000 likes, it got 8 million reach. It's rare that you see a post blow up like that. But it was absolute luck. Now, I could take that data and say I've grown by 25,000 LinkedIn followers in a month, which is true. And that statistic would impress a lot of people. And I could position myself now as an expert on LinkedIn. And a lot of people would think that I am, and they'd pay me $500 an hour for me to tell them the secret of how they can grow their LinkedIn in such a short space of time. And the truth is, I don't actually know how to do that, but I can lie and mislead people and say that I do and take their money.
I see that a lot. I know that this morning you actually said about, I saw it just before we came on, for the next year, for 2023, that we remove the word personal brand. And I was like, oh my God, this man's in my head, because it's my own fault, like clickbait, you see something and think, oh, am I not paying attention to my personal brand? And I literally had to step away, like get off the social medias for a couple of weeks to go, you are your product, you are your service, you are your brand, you are always your personal brand, Puja. You spent 20 years in marketing. Don't get sucked in. And, someone like myself who is from a marketing background should really know better. Like, sometimes I find myself like, why did I allow myself to go down this spiral of negativity about myself through the posts that really stress your pain points? And there's a lot of like marketing towards coaches. And I have to remember, I'm not those coaches. I'm not the people that they want, because I guess I don't want the quick fix, or if you do this course, I don't believe you. Well, I'm terrible like that, but I don't believe you. I don't believe that you created that virality of your business through doing your course, because you didn't. Like you say, you wrote a post, it happened to be good, it happened to get picked up by LinkedIn. I think there's a lot of luck in, and I'm glad you said luck quite a few times actually, but there is a lot of luck in, I guess, how much reach you get on social media too. It's not just actually about the content. But what concerns me is the type of content that these people create and that people follow without, I guess, doing their due diligence before handing over their 797.
Always ends in a 7.
Yes, it does.
But yeah, no, 100%. I mean, luck is a factor that anyone who's seen any type of success, luck is a big ingredient, but you can't sell luck. So luck is a word that coaches and people selling courses don't ever use, obviously. I know people who have huge LinkedIn followers, huge Instagram followers, and I've seen their journey. I've seen them really blow up quite quickly. I can pinpoint that post got them 30,000 followers. That post got them 10,000 followers. That post got them 15,000 followers. So between those 3 posts over the space of a year, we've grown to about 75,000 followers, which is really fast growth. But they haven't been able to recreate it. They got lucky 3 times, and they might get lucky. They probably will get lucky again in the next year or 2, but they can't, at the drop of a hat, create a post and sustain that growth. But they're selling the fact that they can. And that's the kind of the thing that I have an issue with, is selling the silver bullet and projecting that there is some insider knowledge that they have, which you can have if you pay the price.
But it seems to work, right? I mean, we know of Mike Winnet, for instance. I've talked about him before in the podcast, and he does the whole Entrepreneur series. And I've never met him, never spoken to him, but yeah, big fan. I'd love to meet him one day. Yeah, I've got his number. But he's great, and I really. I mean, it completely resonated. I love his Entrepreneur bingo. Whenever he puts a new video up, I'm one of the first to go and have a look at it, just for the sheer joy of seeing someone call out the BS of these, people. And he's like, they say, you can make $1 million, but they didn't make their $1 million through doing this, but they're going to show you how to do it. And then it really bothers me, because there's an element of being a coach a coach like myself, where if the client can resonate with your story, it does make the rapport a lot better, because they feel like I would understand them more, even though it doesn't matter. Your life journey doesn't actually matter in the coaching relationship, but potential clients will want that resonation. So it actually sometimes does work. I burn out from my marketing career. So I get a lot of marketing professionals come to me just from that bit, just that, she was in marketing, so she'll get me. And then the burnout is, I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself. So maybe I'm burning out, or maybe I have burnt out. So I can see why you, the royal you, would be attracted to people who talk a good game. I remember at the beginning, when I would see all these coaches, in inverted commas, say, if you're running a coaching business, this is how you're going to make 6 figures in a month. And all my business and marketing acumen went all out the window. And I was like, how is that possible? Without a budget? How do I make that happen? Well, if I buy their course for $19.97, I'll find out. And then I'll only find out some of it. And then I have to buy their next product for $5,997 in order to get more information. And I was like, no, this is not. Luckily, I haven't been taught out to actually part with money, but I see many people who do it, and they'll come to me and like, would you do coaching for coaches? And I'm like, no, it's not my bag. I will coach you as a person, but I'm not going to coach you to run your business. No, that's not where I'm at. But I wonder why these people get away with all of this. What do you think? How do you think they're getting away with it?
I think that a lot of them are very good at what they do. It's psychological manipulation, a lot of it. The backstory can be fabricated to pull on people's emotional heartstrings, fabricate relatability. People always want shortcuts. And if you're good at creating the illusion, then there'll always be someone willing to pay the $9.97 for the chance to skip the queue and to not put in the work. But it's the obvious question, if these people know how to make a 6-7 figure business in 6 months, then they'd be doing it. They wouldn't be selling a course. That's always the argument.
That's what I think I saw that on one of Mike's videos, and I was like, actually, that's a point, because you can get sucked into the allure and how they're speaking. And I think it's so interesting, that phrase, psychological manipulation, because that's really what they're doing. And then so now I'm aware of it. So whenever I see like a video or an ad or something, sometimes I literally watch it to count how many times I was psychologically manipulated, essentially, by the wording that they use. Like, you will regret it if you don't do it. And then they'll say something. And if you'll feel that regret and then they'll say something else, and then they'll say regret again, or don't let this year pass you by. And with my marketing hat on, sometimes I will say something like that, like don't let another year go by and be stuck in the same situation, because it's true, because like you don't get time back. And I have to be really careful not to sound like what I'm selling, in inverted commas, is what they're selling. But it is kind of true, highlighting the fact of if you leave it too late, you're going to lose time, right? Essentially, in any sort of development you want to do, anything you want to achieve, if you don't take action, not now, but now.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, anything, we've all got a finite amount of time, and but if you take advantage of that insecurity and that vulnerability to make money, then I think that's an issue. And Mike Winnick covers this really well. I think he has like 7 or 8 different points, and pretty much all of the adverts ticks most of them. The perceived value, it's you make a big song and dance. The fact that this course was $9.99, and for only 24 hours, it's £97, and it will run out in 24 hours. You get loads of people rushing for their wallet and typing in their credit card details, thinking that they have a limited time to buy this shortcut that will turn them into a millionaire.
I don't know, mate. For me, I'm such a stickler for justice. Like that just feels so. I can't even think of a word, yucky to do that. And even I tried it, I think once or twice, and I didn't enjoy doing it because I knew I was lying, if that makes sense. I was overinflating and then putting a discount, and I was like, well, no, I don't. That compromises value. My service is my service. You're always going to get 100% of my service with whatever you pay. So no, I can't discount my value here. This doesn't make sense. It's not. So my work is very much live, in person work. It's not a video course that I created that receives passive income, which is probably, a business model to look into, and it works for some people, fine. But that scaremongering of, it's only available for a limited time and you buy it, then I'd wonder how many people actually fulfill those courses and make those 6 figures.
Very little, if any. They probably make up case studies as well to go on their website. They'll have a mate and take a picture of him before with probably down in the dumps, and then they'll do an after photo of him on a private jet and saying, this is what happened after a year after he bought my course. There's a huge difference between the legitimate coaching industry, which is what you're a part of and what many good people are a part of, and they're exchanging a genuine, valuable service for cash. Nothing wrong with that. It's like Mike covers, the entrepreneurs, which is probably, I hope, a small percentage of the entire course industry.
I think it is, but I think it gets really dangerous, and this is definitely where you and I connected more deeply on. I think it gets really dangerous when it's in the self-development space, when it's in the mental health space, when it's talking about very, very serious issues that you need to have some sort of qualification. I'm not saying you need to be a doctor or, overly qualified in it, but you need to have some sort of even just safeguarding. So if you look at genuine coaches and therapists who are on social media, the language that they use will always be quite general because of safeguarding. And that's something that we learn as part of our studying of counseling. I've done counseling and coaching, and in both, safeguarding came up because you have to protect the person. So naturally, when I write a social media post, of course, I'd love to say, in order to fix your life, you need to do this. I can't say that because that's not safeguarding. That post could hit someone at the wrong moment, at the wrong time of day, in the middle of something, and really trigger them into a spiral of some sort, or a reaction or a response to somebody else that they're talking to. So I'm really mindful of it, and a lot of us are. But I see this new wave of self-development people online, including celebrities as well. All of a sudden, celebrities have become experts in self-development, and they're talking about big, serious issues: burnout, depression, anxiety. It's like, like a badge of honor. I've suffered from anxiety all my life. Here's a quote to make you feel better. And then people I mean, you can articulate this a lot better than I can, but they just blindly follow that, and there's never a call to action that says, I don't know, like in the UK, go to Mind. If you're looking for support and things like that, it's always just their opinion, and it really it, as you can tell, it really bothers me.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a whole wave of celebrities and some really prominent, almost household names now that are, I don't think, have any lived experience or definitely not qualified in the mental health space, but they've built entire personal brands off of positioning themselves as a mental health advocate by, like you said, posting extremely algorithm friendly, meaningless, I think, quotes.
Yeah, it's that sort of jumping on a trend, right? And then if it works, do more.
Exactly. And a lot of these guys and girls, their, I think, main objective is to boost their profile in some sort of narcissistic desire to be famous. And they're almost jumping on the mental health train as the vehicle to do it.
Yeah, I love it. They'll do that, right? Oh, I really care about you, my followers, my community. And here's something that you can do for your anxiety. Whilst I swan off to the Maldives on a paid for press trip because I'm now an influencer, thanks to your likes and shares. And I'm like, how are you as the follower not seeing the disparity here? Because you won't see a genuine coach or counselor do that. If that space is for them to support their community, they will continue to support their community. They're not going to then say, oh, by the way, I just took this influencer press trip and went to, the Maldives or Dubai or something fabulous, right? The places that pay to show you, see, because I overcame my anxiety, I was able to jump on that plane and go and be with people that I've never met before and swan about in my bikini. And I'm like, I just don't get it.
No, and a lot of these quotes take advantage of the sort of Barnum theory, Barnum statements, and how horoscopes are written. They sound quite individual to the reader. The reader will read them and go, oh my gosh, this girl knows me. I've never met them, but they understand me.
Yeah.
Everyone who's reading a horoscope, they're designed to connect with everyone, but they're designed also to make it sound like they're not connecting with everyone, and actually they're very individual to you. Hugely manipulative.
It is manipulative. It's also fascinating because I can't do it. So when I'm talking to someone, I can really understand them and fully articulate back to them what they're saying to me, all the paraphrasing and everything else. But when it comes to writing a post in that manner, I can't do it. I try to get into, they say, get into the head of your ideal client. And I'm like, my ideal client is me. So how do I get into my head? I'm already in it, but I don't have those problems anymore that I'm helping my client with, right? So I've gone through that journey already. So I always struggle with relating to them in a text post. And that's why I'm always surprised at which post actually has the bigger reach, because I'm like, oh, that's what they liked. And then I'm like, well, what did I do? What did I do in that post? And then how do I recreate it? And then I can't recreate it. And then months will go by, and then I'll do another post like that. And all of a sudden it's working. So I do find it fascinating that these people have maybe studied, or maybe it even comes naturally to them, that they can write this way and create compelling content that people are just glued to, like their word is law almost. That's kind of how I feel.
It's like if I said to you, or if I put a post out saying, you are the type of person who can sometimes be really quiet at parties, but also sometimes you can go to a party and be the life and soul of the party. Always be yourself. And everyone will read that and go, that applies to me, because that is a Barnum statement. That applies to every single person on this planet. Sometimes we're all capable of being extroverted and introverted, depending on our mood, depending on an infinite number of things that determine our mood for that day. But if you read that, it sounds like that person has written it and directly for you that day. And you'll go, wow, he knows me or she knows me, and you'll click like. And I think there's a lot of people using this manipulative, algorithm friendly, with the sole purpose to boost their profile. And as far as I know, a lot of them don't have any lived experience or qualifications in the space, and especially not to position themselves as an expert in mental health, and to charge extortionate fees, speak on stages around the world. And they speak with authority on the subject, and they speak as if what they're saying is academically factual. And there's always thousands of people in the audience lapping it up and clapping along. And it drives me bonkers. I kind of see through it, but I don't understand how thousands of people don't. I mean, it's so well done. It's so well done. I kind of see how so many people fall for it. But as someone who does see through it, I find it so bizarre how so many people almost praise these voices, these people who are putting this nonsense out.
I think there's a little bit of, I was thinking about it the other day, but a little bit of misery loves company in the content as well, the content style. So because they repeatedly talk about these sort of problems, right, that introverts, like you say, with the whole, when you go to a party and you don't know anyone, but then when you're there, you're the life and soul of the party. It's a very general statement that can apply to absolutely every single person on the planet. But because they repeatedly say it, and, week to week, month to month, you might be in that party situation. And if you see that post at that right time, it resonates. So then you'll just stay for more content like that. And they'll give you a different stream of posts and then recycle all of that again on the next cycle. And I think they just hang on to it, because it's well, if that celebrity attraction, that, well, if a celebrity, if somebody of that great status and stardom can have the same problems as me, then there's hope for me. And what troubles me about that is that the celebrity has the resources to get all the help and support they need to help them get their life the way they want it. You don't. So that's where there's a massive disparity, but they follow blindly. And when I say celebrity, I'll say celebrity loosely. Influencers are also celebrity, right? I think they have that sort of celebrity feel about them, and people do follow and think, well, she did this technique, so it must mean that if I follow this technique, then I'll get the dream boy, husband, and house and car and body. So I'm going to follow blindly, essentially, is what they're doing. It's very worrying.
Yeah, definitely. And to make it topical, lots of, just going back to the entrepreneur thing a little bit, and I guess the high profile celebrity ones, I'll say one name just because it's so relevant now, Liver King has built an entire brand, and his goal is to monetize and sell his supplements, or his equivalent of a business course, which in his world is supplements and a workout regime. And of course, he's just been found out to have lied, and he has been on steroids for a long time. And that's just one person who has been found out. There's always question the credentials of anyone who's selling anything, any shortcut or anything at all. Always, it's our responsibility as people to just not buy or jump when someone says jump, and to always delve into their background and really question, are these people qualified to give this advice, especially if they're paying for it?
No, absolutely. I think that's the best tip that we can actually give. It's to check, are these people qualified to give this advice? Absolutely. It's interesting when you're talking about this, because as you were talking, I was just thinking about the people who do, in a sense, blindly follow and then engage and even purchase and not have, a great experience afterwards. Another reason why they're probably so, I guess, loyal to these kind of people is because a lot of our life now is disconnected, right? We're so connected that we're more disconnected than ever before to, I guess, the human experience, people going on dates and stuff and not knowing how to have a conversation. And it's oh, text me, don't phone me. And I'm Gen X, so I am both analog and digital and proud. And I love that I've had both, because I could appreciate the good and the bad of both. But I mean, I was in Starbucks the other day in Covent Garden, and the girl who was serving me looked at me so blankly, I didn't know how to start the conversation. So I'm like, coaching hat on. Hi, can I have a soy chai latte? And she's like, yeah, what size? And I was like, tall, I don't know, the smallest one. And she started making it and her face didn't change. She's making this tea and her face just didn't change. And I was watching her and I thought, I'm going to break her. That's what I'm going to do. So I did. And I was like, has it been a long day? And she's like, startled. It was like wherever she wasn't in that sort of zone of making the tea. She was somewhere else. And I kind of like jolted her into reality at the point of, has it been a long day, busy day? And she said, yeah. I was like, oh, it's crazy out here. There's so many people. And she said, yeah, we've like hit our weekly target. And I kept like trying to get more out of her. There was big open questions and everything else. And it was really, really hard. And I thought, you know what, where she can't necessarily articulate back to me, I'll just give her some loving kindness and whatever. Clearly it's been a tough day. Her face, says it all. And I said, a nice long bath tonight. And she literally smiled at that moment. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I achieved. But I realized that so many people are so disconnected, yet we are so connected. And I think that's why you don't have that sounding board that you would normally have, right? I mean, this from going to uni. You've got kind of like your mate pods, right? That you go to and you can chat to and you chill with, very Friends sitcom style. But there's a whole host of people who've obviously grown up on social media who don't have that necessary experience because social media has replaced that chill time, right? That you would normally do at your mate's house or whatever. So I'm wondering whether by being so disconnected, I guess they don't have safe sounding boards to check whether something is real, true, safe, or not. I don't know, throwing it out there.
No, it's super interesting. I mean, as human beings, we're clearly not designed to live in the arena that we're living now. I think we're probably designed to live in small communities in small tribes. We're definitely not designed to be able to date, order food, navigate the world using a mobile phone in our hand. There's a whole generation of people who maybe have a phobia or just don't know or just have no practice of actually communicating to other human beings. So like you said, it's all done through voice notes is quite a big thing now, but again, that's not communication. That's just talking to a screen. You don't get any of that real time, all the nuances of actually having a conversation like this, where you can see real time facial expressions, body language. Only 7% of actual communication, I think, is the words that come out of your mouth. The rest is all of the visual nuances and tone of voice, all of that, of course, which we don't have.
And even this though, Alex, like even this barrier, because I've done it with coaching clients who I've only ever coached on Zoom, and then I've met them in person. And meeting them in person is a completely different experience to talking to them on Zoom. There's still, if you and I were to meet in person, we would then get that extra bit, which is energy, like physical energy between us. We would have that when we meet in person. And then that takes our connection even deeper than us where we are now. So there's so much in it. I think it's very fascinating, and it's very easy to get caught in a loop and a cycle, and I guess boredom as well, because I remember asking my social followers last year, why do you use social media? What do you do on social media when you come? It's like, well, they use social media when they're bored. They'll go on social media when they're bored. And what do you like about it? And there wasn't much. And what you don't like about it, it's boring. So I'm like, hold on. You go onto it when you're bored, and then when you're there, it's boring. So what's going to be the thing that stops you from doing it then? Are you going to replace the boredom so you don't scroll? But then, actually, I think I might be answering this myself from a coaching perspective, but there's a part of you that has to take control, right? In terms of who you follow, what you consume, what is healthy for you and what isn't healthy for you. And I wonder if you're stuck in that loop, or if you're stuck in those kind of like following those sorts of people, whether you're actually able to break free from that. I don't know.
Even if you don't follow someone now, most of the platforms show you content
true.
from people who you don't follow. But I mean, ultimately, social media gives us dopamine, which is, this might sound dramatic, but I don't care. I think Reels and TikTok should come with the same warning that alcohol and cigarettes have.
Yes.
And I can see it. I mean, we're way off of that. I don't think there's any real realization how addictive Reels and TikTok and this instant short form gratification is.
Yep.
And it's the energy that you have to put in to get the reward is minuscule. It's a flick of the finger up.
Yeah.
And you get a new 6-second video. And I can guarantee if I go on Reels or TikTok now, in under 10 seconds, I will be in hysterics at watching something. And that's so dangerous. To have that dopamine on demand in my phone. I can't think of anything other than a heroin or a drug that gives you access to such a high when you want it.
Yeah. It should be like dopamine and things should be coming to you through that sort of, I've worked for it, I've achieved it, through going for a run, going for a walk and completing your 10,000 steps, through completing a meal, right? From start to finish, things like that, completing a work project, sending that email that you've been procrastinating on. That kind of dopamine is healthy. It's nicely, spread out in your day, in your week, and you can manage that. But if you're constantly having that dopamine hit, that dopamine high, you're also constantly having the low, right? The come down. You're constantly in that state of come down, which is why you then go back into it to get that high again, because you're going to, come down. I think that's... and
also things in real life that give you dopamine don't seem as good compared to the hit you can get if you go on Reels or TikTok. Things like exercising, having a hug with your partner, playing with your dog, all these kinds of things. They're actually quite mundane compared to the hysterics I would be in if I started scrolling through my Reels for 10 minutes.
No, absolutely. Oh God, Alex, I could talk to you for ages on this topic. It's so interesting. And it does, as we're talking more, it's opening up so many other directions and avenues to go into. But I think with what you've just said about a warning label, I do feel like that sort of, certain people should definitely come with some level of warning label.
Maybe that's my next LinkedIn post. That's quite a good first line. Yeah. TikTok and Reels should have the same warning as alcohol and cigarettes. I mean, it's quite dramatic, and I where it happened, but the point's valid, I think.
I think the point is valid, and it does hit home. And there's I can share with you a paper that was written by some researchers about the neurotransmitters that are fired off during the social media hit. So you've got some science to back it up as well.
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much, Alex. This was a brilliant chat. And like I say, I'm going to talk to you for ages. Keep doing what you're doing. You're great at it. I love seeing you on LinkedIn. It's brilliant. Very inspiring.
Thanks so much. And thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Self-Care 101 podcast. If you love the show, I'd be so grateful if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating over on Spotify. For some weekly wisdom, you can sign up for my Frankly Unstoppable email edit at the link in the show notes and learn more about my work at PujaMcClymont.com. Talk soon.